Good morning, everybody. So I'm out here today fishing on Lake Stevens. Pretty much today, all I'm doing is the fish seem to be up top again. I don't know if you can see it, but right about there was a fish that just jumped. I'm just driving around finding fish that are jumping, trolling over them a couple times, and I actually just picked one up not that long ago. Shasta Tackle UV Sling Blade with a Shasta Tackle Wiggle Hoochie, which came with my Kokanee kidfishing.com kit. Not marking a lot of fish down deep on the sounder. I do have the dual frequency. That's the one reason I bought this Pro. It's not color. A lot of people like the color. I'm not really, using it a whole bunch right now. As the season goes on, I might switch my color unit in here. But as you can see, it reads depth. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can see zoom out there. You can see the bottom. See how deep it is. Zoom back in. Watch the upper gear. The fish, or the rod that picked up the fish, I'm just flatlining with it. I have it out at 30 pulls, just kind of hanging out back there. Actually trolled about 15 minutes and picked a fish up. What I like to do with my downriggers is put super long releases on them. And then I have a little hook that I just reach out from the side of the boat, grab them, no leaning over the side of the boat. That can get a little dangerous when there's some waves out here. I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of how to rig this pull down. Just got it out there, Dick Knight Dodger and a custom Smile wedding ring that came in my KokaneeKid.com fishing kit. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to do 20 pulls, about 1 foot pulls, which will put me in a 20-foot setback from my downrigger. That'll make it run about 5 feet deeper than your downrigger ball, but that long release kind of counteracts that. So I'm going to go ahead and pause you and grab this release, clip the line in, and kind of show you how I set downriggers. Camera got a little dirty. So as you can see here, my release is pretty long. I can bring it in and just set it inside of the boat. I got my line in my hand here. So what I'm going to do is grab my release. And I'm not fishing very deep today, so I'm not setting these releases very deep. I switched my balls and accidentally left my good releases at the house. These are just some Scotty mini powers. They do work fine. You can see I do not have it set very deep. Because these fish do have the soft mouths, you don't want them down there fighting around with the downrigger clip and coming out. These Tika Cayman reels have the line clicker on them. I can just free spool it and don't have to mess around with anything. Pretty much allows me to drop these downriggers with one hand. So you'll just want to slowly let your downrigger ball out there. You can hear the reel. I'm going to set this one at 20 feet. When you set your downriggers, kind of the way I like to do it, when I'm done with my drag, I just barely bump it to where the ball stops. Just in case, you're going along, you grab something, that way the line plays out instead of, pulling your boat. People have capsized their boats from doing that. I have this set at 20 feet. I load up the rod a little bit in there, helps it pop out of the clip a little bit easier. Got my bell, just put the rod in a pole holder like that. I turn the clicker off and set my drag so that way when the pole's loaded over, it's just about ready to pull drag. That way when the fish grabs it, it can go. It's not going to tear the hook out of its mouth. And then my sonar, you can now see my downrigger ball and gear. The low little line right here is actually my lure. See, I set my downrigger at 20 feet. My lure's at about 25. And when you're going along, you can actually watch fish come up and grab it. It's pretty cool. I do have a GPS program on my phone since I do not have one on my sounder. I'm trolling about 1.2, 1.3 this morning. I picked up a fish, but that was about 15 minutes ago. I just swapped this rig out. I was fishing with a glow squid. I put some DNA shoe peg corn on there. You want to turn your corn so the open end is facing backwards. You want everything as aerodynamic as possible. When you do get a fish on, you do want to play them in slow. I keep the motor in gear. Keep moving forward. Seems to keep them underneath the water a little bit better. When the fish do get up to the boat and start flailing around, I tend to just stick the pole underneath the water, keep them down underneath the water, hurry up, grab the net, and just kind of slide them into the net. As the day will progress, I'll start marking fish down a little bit deeper. They'll probably stop jumping. That's when this really comes in handy, kind of get an idea of the depth. It's been running about 25 feet. That seems to be where they're hanging out. When the sun comes out, it gets a little bit brighter. It drives them down a little bit deeper. But if the sun's out, there's some chop on top of the water, like it's a little windy. You got some caps coming off. That'll tend to bring them up to the top a little bit. They won't feel as nervous about being up to the water. When the sun is out and it's bright, I like using pink lures. It seems to work for me. When it's kind of a cloudy, overcast day like today, I like the greens, I like the oranges. I like those early in the morning too. It just seems to work pretty good for me. If you want to, you can take some scents like this, just put a little dab on your Dodger, and that will kind of supplement your corn a little bit, or whatever you're using. I got the fish this morning on these chartreuse Berkeley Gulp maggots. Seem to work pretty good. I have them in pink as well, and then I have a jar of pink and a jar of chartreuse that I added my own scent to. This is the Pro-Cure Bloody Tuna. Seems to work pretty good out here. I always keep my corn on ice, keep it fresh throughout the day. I like using an electric motor versus a gas. It's quieter. I can run shorter setbacks. I can fish up top and not worry about spooking fish. The gas motor will work fine. This one idles down pretty good when it's windy. I fire this up just so I'm not draining the battery. I use Interstate Deep Cycle battery just because I'm running, a sonar and an electric trolling motor. It uses quite a bit of juice. Other than that, it's just like today, I'm just looking for fish that jump, kind of trolling over to them, switching back, going back over them a few times, kind of doing it that way. It seems to work pretty well. I'll go ahead and pull this fish up here. This is a pretty typical early season Lake Stevens kokanee. About 12 inches, nice bright fish. The reason I like using the 2-hook setups is that fish was hooked inside of the mouth, and the secondary hook actually came up and found the eye socket. That fish was not going anywhere. That bottom hook tore out of its mouth during the fight. It was still hooked when I brought it up to the boat. Really seems to help me out. Anything else, you guys go ahead, ask me to add it in. I'm glad to show you. I do have an extra seat in my boat here. It's a little cramped, but I can fish 2 people. I like fishing 2 people, 2 rods on the downriggers, 2 rods flatlining. Really seems to pick up the fish well. I'll go ahead and load this on the computer when I get home. Tight lines, everybody.